What happens when America's sweetheart meets television's most controversial host? You won't believe what unfolds when Dolly Parton sits down with Joy Behar on The View and everything goes completely off the rails. This isn't just another celebrity interview gone wrong. This is a full-blown confrontation that had viewers across the country dropping their jaws and reaching for their phones to record what they were witnessing. Before we get into this incredible story, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below, because you're not going to believe what unfolds when these two powerhouse women go head-to-head in what can only be described as television carnage. Last night's episode of The View was supposed to be a celebration. Dolly Parton, the beloved country music icon, philanthropist, and national treasure, was making what should have been a warm, welcoming appearance to discuss her latest charitable endeavors and upcoming projects. The audience was buzzing with excitement, fans were cheering, and everything seemed perfectly set up for another feel-good segment that The View is known for when they have beloved guests. But Joy Behar had other plans. From the moment Dolly walked onto that stage, something felt different. While the other co-hosts, Whoopi Goldberg, Sarah Haynes, and the rest of the panel, greeted Dolly with their usual warmth and enthusiasm, Joy's demeanor was noticeably cold. Her smile seemed forced, her body language was tense, and there was something brewing behind those eyes that suggested this wasn't going to be the typical softball interview everyone expected. Dolly, ever the professional and genuinely kind soul, didn't seem to notice the shift at first. She was her usual charming self, cracking jokes, making the audience laugh, and sharing heartwarming stories about her latest initiatives to improve literacy in rural communities. The conversation flowed naturally as she discussed her Imagination Library program, which has donated millions of books to children worldwide, and her recent efforts to support education in underserved areas. "You know, Joy," Dolly said with that infectious smile that has won hearts for decades, "I've always believed that if you can read, you can learn anything. And if you can learn anything, you can do anything. That's why this program means so much to me." The audience applauded warmly, and for a moment, it seemed like this was going to be exactly the kind of uplifting segment viewers tuned in for. But then Joy leaned forward, and something in her expression shifted dramatically. "That's interesting, Dolly," Joy said, her voice taking on an edge that immediately caught everyone's attention. "But I have to ask, and I think our viewers deserve to know, how do you reconcile your charitable work with some of the more controversial aspects of your background?" The studio fell silent. You could practically hear a pin drop as Dolly's smile faltered slightly, confusion crossing her features. The other co-hosts exchanged glances, clearly not expecting this turn in the conversation. "I'm sorry, what do you mean by controversial?" Dolly asked, maintaining her composure but with a slight tension creeping into her voice. Joy didn't back down. If anything, she doubled down, leaning forward with what can only be described as predatory intensity. "Well, let's talk about your roots, Dolly. You come from Tennessee, from a very conservative background. You've been notably silent on many important social and political issues that affect the very communities you claim to want to help." The atmosphere in the studio shifted palpably. What had started as a celebration was quickly turning into something much more confrontational. Dolly's posture straightened, and while she maintained her trademark grace, there was steel in her voice when she responded. "Joy, I've always tried to stay out of politics, because I believe my job is to bring people together, not divide them. My music, my charitable work, it's all about love and unity." "But that's exactly the problem, isn't it?" Joy fired back, her voice growing louder and more aggressive. "Your silence is complicity. While you're out there playing the sweet, innocent country girl, real people are suffering because of the policies supported by the very demographic you represent." The other co-hosts were visibly uncomfortable now. Whoopi tried to interject, "Joy, maybe we should," but Joy cut her off with a sharp look and continued her assault. "Let's be honest about what we're really talking about here," Joy continued, her voice dripping with condescension. "You've built your entire brand on this folksy down-home image, but what does that really represent? What does it mean when you refuse to take a stand on issues like women's reproductive rights, LGBTQ+ equality, or racial justice?" Dolly's hands were clasped tightly in her lap now, her knuckles white with tension. The woman who had faced decades in the music industry, who had overcome poverty and sexism to become one of the most successful entertainers in history, was being attacked on national television by someone who was supposed to be interviewing her about her charitable work. "Joy," Dolly said, her voice measured but with an unmistakable warning tone. "I think you're misunderstanding what I'm about. I've never claimed to be perfect, and I've never claimed to have all the answers. But I have spent my entire life trying to help people, regardless of their politics, their race, their sexuality, or anything else." "Help people?" Joy scoffed, and the contempt in her voice was unmistakable. "Or help your image? Because, from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've spent your career carefully crafting this persona that allows you to profit from both sides, without ever having to take a real stand on anything that matters." The studio audience was now completely silent, the tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. Even the camera operators seemed frozen, unsure whether they should keep rolling or cut away from what was becoming an increasingly hostile confrontation. Dolly took a deep breath, and when she spoke again, her voice carried decades of experience dealing with difficult people and impossible situations. "You know what, Joy? I came here today to talk about helping children learn to read. I came here to talk about bringing joy and music to people's lives. I didn't come here to be ambushed or to have my character attacked by someone who clearly has some kind of agenda." "Agenda?" Joy's voice rose to near shouting levels now. "My agenda is the truth. My agenda is calling out people who hide behind fake personas while the world burns around them." The confrontation was reaching a boiling point, and everyone in the studio could feel it. This wasn't just a disagreement between two celebrities. This was turning into something much more personal and vicious. And as Joy prepared to launch her next attack, it was clear that things were about to get much, much worse. What happened next would go down as one of the most shocking moments in daytime television history. Joy leaned back in her chair, with a smug expression that made it clear she was about to drop what she considered her nuclear weapon in this verbal warfare. "You want to talk about helping people, Dolly?" Joy's voice dripped with venom. "Let's talk about your theme park, Dollywood. Let's talk about how you've created this little fantasy land that celebrates a version of Southern culture that a lot of people find deeply problematic." Dolly's eyes flashed with something dangerous. For the first time since the interview began, her carefully maintained composure cracked just slightly. "Excuse me?" "Oh, don't play innocent with me," Joy continued, clearly emboldened by getting a reaction. "Your entire brand is built on romanticizing a time and place that wasn't so romantic for everyone. The old South aesthetic, the plantation-style imagery, the whole simpler times narrative that conveniently ignores the fact that those simpler times were built on the backs of enslaved people." The studio audience gasped audibly. Several people in the front rows had their hands over their mouths in shock. The camera caught Whoopi Goldberg shaking her head in disbelief, while Sarah Haynes looked like she wanted to crawl under the table. Dolly's voice, when she finally spoke, was ice cold. "Are you seriously sitting there accusing me of racism?" "I'm not accusing you of anything," Joy shot back with false innocence. "I'm asking legitimate questions about the imagery and messaging you've chosen to promote throughout your career. Questions that I think deserve answers." "Questions?" Dolly's southern drawl became more pronounced as her anger grew. "These aren't questions, Joy. This is an attack. This is you trying to tear down someone who has spent 60 years in this business without a single scandal, without hurting anyone, while building schools and libraries and helping millions of children learn to read." But Joy wasn't backing down. If anything, she was just getting started. "And that's exactly what makes it so insidious, isn't it? You hide behind all that charity work and that sweet persona, but what are you really promoting? What kind of values are you really representing?" The other co-hosts were frantically trying to regain control of the situation. Whoopi attempted to cut to commercial, but Joy waved her off aggressively. "No, we're having this conversation. America needs to hear this." Dolly stood up from her chair, her hands shaking with rage. "You want to know what values I represent? I represent kindness. I represent helping people who can't help themselves. I represent building bridges instead of tearing them down. And right now, I'm representing the value of not sitting here and taking this bullshit from someone who has clearly lost her damn mind." The audience erupted. Some people were cheering, others were booing, and everyone was on their feet. The studio had descended into complete chaos. But Joy wasn't finished with her character assassination. "There it is," Joy shouted over the noise, pointing dramatically at Dolly. "The real you finally comes out. The mask slips, and we see what's really underneath all that sugar-sweet bullshit. You want to see the real me?" Dolly's voice rose to match Joy's volume. "The real me grew up dirt poor, in a one-room cabin with 11 brothers and sisters. The real me has worked every single day since I was 10 years old to build something meaningful. The real me has given away more money to help people than you'll ever see in your lifetime. And the real me is about to walk out of here because I refuse to be disrespected by someone who clearly has serious personal issues that she's projecting onto me." Joy laughed bitterly. "Personal issues? The only issue I have is with fake people who profit off of problematic imagery while pretending to be saints. You want to talk about your childhood? Fine. Let's talk about how you've monetized that poverty narrative while conveniently ignoring the systemic issues that created that poverty in the first place." The security team was now standing by, clearly unsure whether they needed to intervene. The producers were frantically gesturing from behind the cameras. But Joy had completely gone rogue and was operating on pure adrenaline and spite. Dolly took a step toward Joy's chair, her usually gentle demeanor completely transformed. "You don't know a goddamn thing about my life, my struggles, or what I've overcome. You sit here in your comfortable studio, making millions of dollars to tear people down, and you have the audacity to lecture me about helping people. When was the last time you actually did something meaningful for another human being besides destroying them on television?" "I expose hypocrites," Joy fired back, standing up to face Dolly directly. "I hold people accountable for their actions and their choices. And right now, I'm holding you accountable for building a career on a fantasy that hurts real people." "Hurts people?" Dolly's voice cracked with emotion and fury. "My music has brought joy to millions. My charities have educated children who never would have had those opportunities. My businesses have employed thousands of people and supported entire communities. What the hell have you done except spread negativity and hatred?" The confrontation had now moved beyond the chairs, with both women standing and facing each other, while the studio audience watched in stunned silence. This wasn't just a heated interview anymore. This was a full-blown confrontation between two powerful women, and everyone could sense that something irreversible was about to happen. Joy's face was flushed with anger and what looked like genuine hatred. She had clearly been building up to this moment for who knows how long. And now that she had Dolly in her crosshairs, she wasn't going to stop until she had completely destroyed her. "You want to know what really pisses me off about you, Dolly? It's that everyone loves you. Everyone thinks you're this perfect, untouchable angel who can do no wrong. Well, I'm here to tell America the truth about their precious little country princess." Dolly's eyes were blazing now, all traces of her trademark sweetness completely gone. "The truth? You wouldn't know the truth if it bit you on your bitter ass. You're so consumed with your own misery and jealousy that you can't stand to see someone who's actually made a positive difference in this world." "Jealous?" Joy laughed harshly. "Of what? Your fake tits and your fake persona? Your carefully constructed image that's about as authentic as a $3 bill?" The audience gasped again, but this time there were audible boos directed at Joy. Even her most loyal viewers were starting to turn against her as they watched her cross every line of decency and professionalism. Dolly's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper that somehow carried throughout the entire studio. "You just made the biggest mistake of your pathetic career, Joy Behar. You can attack my politics, you can question my motivations, you can even insult my intelligence. But the moment you start making crude comments about my body and calling me fake, you've shown everyone exactly what kind of person you really are." Joy seemed to realize she had gone too far, but her pride and her commitment to this destruction prevented her from backing down. "I'm the kind of person who tells the truth, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it destroys people's precious illusions about their heroes." "Heroes?" Dolly took another step forward, and now she was close enough to Joy that the cameras had to adjust to capture both of them in frame. "I never claimed to be anyone's hero, Joy. I'm just a woman who's tried to use whatever talent and success I've had to make things a little better for other people. But you're the kind of person who tears down everything good in this world because you can't stand that other people have found happiness and success that you'll never achieve." The studio was electric with tension. Every person in the audience was on the edge of their seat, and the crew behind the cameras was frantically trying to figure out whether they should keep rolling or cut away from what had become a complete disaster. Joy's voice reached a crescendo of fury. "You think you're better than me? You think your little charity work and your fake humility make you some kind of saint? I've been fighting for real causes my entire career, while you've been playing dress-up and singing songs about your damn coat of many colors." That was the final straw. Dolly's composure didn't just crack, it shattered completely. "Don't you dare mock my family's poverty. Don't you dare make fun of a song I wrote about my mother's love and sacrifice. You are a vile, disgusting excuse for a human being, and I will not stand here for one more second and let you disrespect my mother's memory." The emotion in Dolly's voice was raw and real, and even some of the audience members were wiping away tears. This wasn't just about professional disagreement anymore. Joy had attacked something sacred, and everyone in the studio could feel the shift. Joy seemed momentarily stunned by the intensity of Dolly's reaction, but she quickly recovered and decided to go for the killing blow. "Oh, spare me the crocodile tears. Everything about you is calculated, including that little emotional breakdown. You're probably already figuring out how to spin this into another sympathy story for your next album." Dolly stared at Joy for a long moment, her chest heaving with emotion. When she finally spoke, her voice was steady but filled with a cold fury that was somehow more frightening than all the shouting that had come before. "You know what, Joy? You're absolutely right about one thing. This will make a great story. The story of how Joy Behar destroyed her own career and showed the entire world what a bitter, jealous, small-minded person she really island. Because that's what people are going to remember from this interview. Not your pathetic attempts to tear me down, but the fact that you revealed yourself to be exactly the kind of person who attacks other women for sport." Joy opened her mouth to respond, but Dolly cut her off with a gesture that was pure steel. "I'm done. I'm done with this interview, I'm done with this show, and I'm done with you." Dolly turned to face the audience, her voice carrying clearly throughout the studio. "To everyone who came here today expecting to hear about literacy programs and helping children, I'm sorry you had to witness this disgusting display instead. And to the viewers at home, I want you to know that this is not what discourse should look like. This is not how we should treat each other. And this is certainly not how a professional interviewer should conduct themselves." She turned back to Joy one final time. "And as for you, Joy Behar, I truly feel sorry for you. I feel sorry for someone who is so consumed with negativity that they can't even pretend to be decent for 30 minutes on national television." With that, Dolly Parton walked off the View's stage with more dignity and class than anyone had ever seen displayed on daytime television. She didn't storm off in a huff. She didn't slam doors or throw things. She simply gathered her purse, nodded politely to the other co-hosts who looked mortified by what they had witnessed, and walked away with her head held high. The studio audience erupted in thunderous applause that lasted for several minutes, with many people giving Dolly a standing ovation as she disappeared backstage. Joy stood there alone, suddenly realizing that she had just committed career suicide on live television in front of millions of viewers. Whoopi Goldberg's voice cut through the chaos. "We'll be right back after this commercial break." The cameras stopped rolling, but the damage was already done. In less than an hour, clips of the confrontation would be trending on every social media platform, and Joy Behar's reputation would be in ruins. This wasn't just a heated interview gone wrong. This was the moment when America watched one of their most beloved entertainers face down a bully with grace, strength, and an unshakable moral compass. And in doing so, Dolly Parton proved exactly why she had earned the love and respect of millions of people around the world.